Welcome, everyone. Thanks for tuning into today's episode of Canal Days, what life was like in the industrial Connecticut River Valley. As always, I am your host, Carrie, along with my co-host, founder of Historical Tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert Como. Our Canal Days series explores historic sites throughout Massachusetts with Robert's expertise of the state's history as our personal guide. Each episode, we uncover pivotal historic locations or landmarks, delving into the seminal and monumental significance they hold within. Today's episode of Canal Days will be perusing the St. Anthony of Padua Church, located in Chicopee, Massachusetts. So, can you reveal the early years of the St. Anthony Church?
Yes, like any old-time church, it's a very complex early history. And that's because you have to get things together in order to make a church. And you need financial support, and you need buildings and structures being made. So, in the beginning, the first masses for the St. Anthony of Padua parish were held in the Nativity Church, which was in Willimantic. No longer there. That old church was taken down in 1978. But for 2 years, they had masses in that church, and they shared space with the congregation that was already there. But the bishop assigned the first pastor to be Celestine Rosewitz, and he was in charge of everything, not only the religious aspect, but also the physical aspect. He had to get all the permits to make the new church. And they made a building, started in 1926 and ready by 1927. That's still there. It looks like a school. It was designed by a man from Chicopee, and the whole goal was to make it look like a school because they wanted it to be a school. But in the beginning, since they didn't have a church yet, they had to put a church on the second floor of 2, and a church hall on the first floor. But the plans that a school would come here in a few years. The cornerstone was put in May 29th, 1972. And the first Mass was a Palm Sunday Mass, April 10th, 1927. The Mass would be on the second floor. The pastor would live within the building on the first floor. So that was also his rectory. His first rectory would have been the Nativity's rectory itself. But they were building a brand new rectory next to the church itself, and that is still there too. So today we're going to talk about, share more of this history about the pastor and what the modern church was, and what the campus is like now. So this early history I've documented with newspaper articles, and you can go to the website for this page and read about it and try to understand what's going on.
And who was the first pastor?
His name was Celestine Rosewitz, and when he came in, he was 29 years old when they told him, get a church built, get this group together. The church had been going on the parish, or the parishioners, for a few months had been going to Nativity, and he would come in from Mother Della Rosa Church of Holyoke and assigned to build a structure. And he would have to actually get a couple of road permits because both roads that were on the side of this new structure were dirt roads. And he wanted the city to pave them so that they can have cars come in and parishioners can park on the streets. They didn't want to pave them at first, but he convinced them to pave them. And they needed new water pipes, and they needed building permits, and he had to get this all done himself. He was the pastor of this wonderful church for quite a few years, from 1926 to 1939, before he was reassigned to parish out in Pennsylvania and then went out in Buffalo, New York. He would live for a very long time and he would be buried out in the Francis Friars Cemetery, which is in a suburb just north of Buffalo, New York. But for 13 years, he was the person to get all this together. Now, why wasn't the school ever built? Well, if you build a new church, 1926, with plans to make it change into a school, to build a new church next to it, 3 years later, the Great Depression hits. So they had to set aside those plans, and it wasn't until much later that the church would come in. So what they planned to be a school never really happened as such, and they were able to change it over to a more neat look. But the church stayed in this location until the 1970s because they had to. And
We will be right back, so stick around after these few words from our sponsor. Are you fascinated by local history and eager to investigate the obscure treasures off the beaten path around Massachusetts? Or maybe just seeking an unforgettable cultural activity for family and friends to enjoy? Look no further than Historical Tours of Greater Holyoke, founded by Robert Camus. With over a decade of experience, Robert offers captivating tours and presentations of historic sites and landmarks throughout the state. Whether you're interested in canals, cemeteries, charming old churches, and more, Robert's tours provide a unique and enriching experience for all. And that's not it. You can also schedule private tours tailored to your interests, ensuring a personalized adventure and unforgettable memories. Perfect for families or groups of all sizes, making for an exciting hands-on learning experience that brings history to life. Simply visit holyokecanaltour.org or email bobcat4214 capital B at yahoo.com to book your private tour today. But wait, there's more. Don't miss out on Robert's podcast and video series, Canal Days, where you can dive even deeper into the vital history of the Connecticut River Valley. Plus, for those who may not be local or would rather enjoy on the go or from the comfort of their home, Canal Days brings the adventure right to your screen. So don't miss out. Uncover the pivotal past with Historical Tours of Greater Holyoke and make memories that will last a lifetime. Remember to log on to holyokecanaltour.org for more information and secure your personalized experience today. Welcome back to our Canal Days episode of the St. Anthony of Padua Church in Chicopee, Massachusetts. And can you recall when the nowadays modern church came around?
sure, the new church was ready for July 7th, 1971, and was blessed October 24th, 1971. And the old church would become a social center at that point. And this church faces onto Meadow Street, and this whole campus is half a city block, formed by Meadow Street on the east and Chicopee Street to the west. But the two side streets coming along have modern names, and you'll recognize them. The St. Anthony Street is the one at which the statues in the old church and hall had its main entrance point. The back of that has a modern name of Celestine Street, and that's toward the north of that block. Now, those two streets had former names back in 1925 when this church started out. And I told you, you recognize the name, sure, St. Anthony Street, named after the church, but it used to be called Senecal Street. And then I told you, you recognize Celestine Street because of the pastor's first name that started this church, Celestine. The city named it after him, even when he was alive, because they loved him so much for building up this whole city block. But its former name was Senecal Street. Enright Street. And so, what a transformation. Brand new 1971 church with the old 1925 church hall, former church. And even in 1942, that church hall was transformed over to make it look more like a hall and more like a church, because they resigned themselves to saying this is never going to be changed into a school.
And can you describe the campus nowadays?
In the year 2009, the bishop decided to close two Roman Catholic churches in Willimantic and keep one of them open. And he decided that the St. Anthony of Padua Church should be the one to stay open. And in that year, he merged the two other churches into this one. The Nativity Church was merged. Remember, the Nativity Church dates from the 1890s, but it had to, in 1978, get a new church because Interstate 391 would cross right by the old church. So they made a new church that year. And what they did was also close down the St. Mary's Church. And the reason, again, the amount of people attending the parish had dropped to such a low level, they decided to combine all three of them into one. And it's worked out. So since 2009, you have one church. It's no longer a post-ethnic group church. All three ethnic groups that are historically popular in this Willimantic now are combined into one, plus a new fourth aspect, that is the Spanish aspect, has come into play, and that's mostly the Puerto Rican ethnic group. And so thus, they still have English masses, but they have also Spanish masses. And most of the parishioners now either Puerto Rican, French Canadian, Polish, or Irish. So all the ethnic groups are now in one.
And thanks for listening to Canal Days and our episode on the St. Anthony of Padua Church, and joining us on our journey through the rich history of the Connecticut River Valley. We hope you enjoyed uncovering some of the hidden gems and fascinating stories that shape our past in the state of Massachusetts. A special thanks to Robert Camus, founder of Historical Tours of Greater Holyoke, for sharing his passion and expertise with us. Remember, you can find more information about Robert's tours, book private tours, and explore the Canal Days video and podcast series at holyokecanaltour.org. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please like, comment, and share. We'd love to hear your thoughts and suggestions for future episodes. Until next time, keep exploring and discovering the history that surrounds us. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to tune in to our next episode of Canal Days on holyokecanaltour.org.